All right, so we're going to make a little table here, tray. But first things first, got to make sure that my work center is completely level. So I'm going to take my level, put it across, and this was level here just a second ago. And now we are all kinds of way off here. So now I got to readjust. There we go. Now we're back to level. So let's check the other way. There we go. Back to level. Front to back and side to side. All right, for this very first base layer here, I'm just doing a very initial base layer, but I am going to add a little bit of a color to it. So all this layer is just a very thin layer, just to keep anything in there from hitting the bottom, because I am going to add some decorative detail in the middle. So I'm just working around the edges. This is my first time doing with this one, so I'm not even sure if I mixed enough. And the whole purpose behind it being your work surface being level as opposed to just your mold being level is that as soon as you set it down, it'll automatically be level again. So now I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun. Now that it's leveling out. And just like that, the first layer is poured. We just got to let it set and it'll be ready for the next layer. All right, so, but I wanted to make the handles a little bit darker of a purple since we have the light purple base. I want it to come out darker purple for the handles. So now I'm going to pour this nice and slow and even and let it work its way down into there. I'm planning on sticking them right to the plate directly and seeing if I can get it one complete thing, but otherwise I got to let them rest for a little bit, hit them with the heat gun, pop all the bubbles that pouring out. I'll give them a little shake here, get some of these lower bubbles to come out. While it's still fresh. Otherwise, that's about all I'm doing in this section. All right, so I've got both the handles. They came out of the mold really nicely. One thing that did happen was this really neat little channel formed in both of these because I did not put enough epoxy in there, but I think it's going to look really cool because I'm going to lay them right into each one of these, and I'm going to pour the next layers of epoxy with them in there, so that way there's no drilling and trying to get them to use any type of screws or anything like that. So I'm going to pour uh, some really thin layer of epoxy in there to even that out. But a couple things I'm going to do first is I'm going to run my sandpaper. I'm going to sand right on this piece. Make sure that the next layer of epoxy holds very nicely. Clean it up very nicely with some alcohol. Get any bit of dust and dirt and grime out of there. And I'll just give that a few minutes to dry. All right, so now everything's nice and dry. Now I'm just using a regular glue stick and I'm putting things down. And I'm only using the glue stick just to hold everything in place until I get the epoxy poured. Sometimes a lot of these things is just trial and error. until you figure out what works best for you. But let's see how we can do it with just a brush here. All right, so now we've got 2 small batches of epoxy mixed up. Now we just want to let it just flow itself. Now I'm pouring it all into the middle and letting it push its way to the outside edge. I went and added some pewter color to the leftover epoxy into this cup. Now as you can see, it hasn't, if you can or can't see, it hasn't fully spread everywhere. But I'm going to take and pour this into this groove here. Seeing as the epoxy is not spreading like I want it to, I'll make it spread. Because I don't want a thick layer in here just yet. I like to keep the layers in between nice and thin. Definitely got the epoxy to spread to all the corners now. Now I just got to let it set and finish spreading and then level itself out and do its thing. All right, so this piece is all set. The inlays that I did on here, they rolled over just a little bit on the railings, but I think they still came out really good. Everything on the surface is all set. I'm just going to give it a quick sand over for the next layer because I'm going to bring it all the way up to the edge of this. All right, so now we got our epoxy all mixed up. So now let's put it to work. Now, unlike last time where I was worried about handles coming off and pictures falling off, I can just lift it up this time and spread it around this way. Obviously I spilled a little bit here. All right, so it's time for the final result. And so what I love about these silicone molds is that everything just pulls literally right out and it just peels right apart. Right like so. And that is absolutely beautiful. Nice, strong, sturdy. Does have a little curvature to it, which will work good for what I think the person will use it for. Nice, clean, beautiful look. So there are a couple things that I think I'll change in doing this again, but overall, I'm happy with the end result. So thanks everybody. Keep experimenting, keep doing good things, and we'll see you with the next project.